Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for Fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season for the last time, excluding the stream tomorrow, guys. It is time for my Game Week 38 team selection. Yes, final video, squeezing this one in before tomorrow's final deadline, guys. If you enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like, do subscribe if you're new around here. Let's get started. Alright, so let's cast our eyes back to Game Week 37 first of all, and I think it went okay, all things considered. Ultimately, we saw in Game Week 37 that it really was a case of if you have Josko Guardiola in your team, you are going to have probably a green arrow, pretty good score. If you don't have him, then maybe you're not looking at such a big score. So he really was a defining factor in Game Week 37, and unfortunately, he's not a player that I had, as I did go for the differential De Bruyne instead as we chase towards the top 100k, which is not looking as positive as maybe it was last game week. But hey, these things happen. Sometimes you are going to get these big swings, and maybe next week I'll be on the right side of it. But still got away with a minuscule green arrow, so no real damage done necessarily, but it has put extra pressure on Game Week 38 for me to try and sneak back into the top 100k, because that's really where I want to be as an absolute minimum each and every season. So guys, let's see how we are going to do that. Before we go any further, I'd love to share with you the latest FPL merch we are making over at fanprints.uk. We've recently dropped a new collection of t-shirts, mugs designed as mini-league prizes, mini-league forfeits, or just a general way to celebrate your love for FPL. Now, my personal favourites are the hungover mug and the I hate FPL t-shirt with that red arrow, and who can forget the classic captain mug as well, which is also available in black. Now, Fanprints are shipping worldwide, so no one is missing out. We already have happy customers all around the world, and FPL Mate viewers can get an exclusive 20% discount on all purchases by using code FPLMate at the checkout, all one word. So check out fanprints.uk by clicking the link in the description or the pinned comment. Making a purchase at Fanprints is the best way to support this YouTube channel, and you'll be getting something genuinely I think is awesome in return. So unlike in FPL, everyone wins. So we have got 2 free transfers, which I think is a really, really good position to be in. It gives me lots more options, and we have a little bit more flexibility than maybe the average manager does going into Game Week 38. So we are going to maybe be able to take that and use that to our advantage, making multiple transfers, particularly as we have nothing in the bank. You know, we're going to have to make multiple moves if we want to make any upgrades anywhere. So guys, let's go through my team first of all as it is. We've got Petrovic in goal. He plays against Bournemouth at home. I actually think this fixture is maybe a little bit better than I thought it was a little while ago. Chelsea do seem to be doing better on the defensive front recently, and Bournemouth, you know, not really anything to play for anymore this season, and therefore Chelsea still got to try and make sure that they are staying in those European spots. Can they go ahead and get a clean sheet in this game? Well, I don't see why not. I don't think it's guaranteed, but really outside of Man City and Arsenal, potentially Liverpool, I don't really know where any clean sheets are going to be coming from in Game Week 38, to be fair. As we know, it's a huge scoring game week every time this comes around at the end of the season, so yeah, there is not too much faith in any goalkeepers at the moment, other than Raya and I guess Ortega at Man City as well. In defence, we've got Pedro Porro. Now, although this is a Spurs defence that is reasonably leaky, they do concede goals. What we know about Pedro Porro is he is coming back in form right at the right time to get some attacking returns finally. So that's very nice. We've got a nice fixture against Sheffield United, and this is going to be a real nice opportunity. What we've seen at the last couple of seasons is Spurs always seem to play a kind of relegated team on the final day of the season, and therefore they're clocking up some huge scores. Every single Game Week 38, Spurs go ahead and score like 4 or 5 goals, and you think that Pedro Porro is probably going to be one of the men getting those attacking returns, given his attacking form has been a little bit better recently. So, in this great fixture for him, although we don't often have a huge amount of faith in Spurs players, I think there is reason to be optimistic about Pedro Porro. Now, Gabriel is the next player in my team, and he's just a pretty much guaranteed clean sheet. Maybe I'm being a little disrespectful to Everton here, but we do know they have struggled for goals a little bit this season, and Arsenal are just another beast defensively, and actually going into this game week with only one Arsenal defender is probably not going to be good enough. I think a lot of people are going to have multiple Arsenal defenders, and they'll be lapping up those clean sheet points. So we're going to bring ourselves to our final defender in this team, and that is Munoz. Now, I brought in Munoz last game week, hoping he could get something out of the Wolves game for my bench boost, but also with one eye on this fixture against Aston Villa, which I think is definitely a sleeper fixture that could be a really nice score, because Aston Villa literally have nothing to play for. They can't can't go up, they can't go down. You would imagine that players like Ollie Watkins are probably not, he's not been in the most amazing form recently anyway, and you would probably say that he's not going to overexert himself with that England place on the line for him. So therefore, is this actually a decent opportunity for a clean sheet? Well, the clean sheet odds do suggest that Crystal Palace have one of the better chances of a clean sheet this game week, which is pretty nice. And Munoz, I don't know if you guys have been watching him recently, he is a striker, essentially. He is playing so advanced in that right wing back position that he's constantly in and around the box, getting on the end of things. Came super close to scoring against Wolves last game week, which I was really disappointed with. But hey, he is definitely one of those players who is, I guess, due a goal, because he is just in all of those dangerous areas. And when we get defenders who score goals, maybe adding clean sheets to that as well, like Guardiola did last game week, well, we got the potential for some huge scores, and I think Munoz definitely has that explosive potential, and is obviously a differential as well. And I think not too many people will go for him, and I think that's fair enough. He's a little bit of a risky pick, but he's definitely a super high potential pick, and that's what I want going into Game Week 38. In my midfield, we've got Kevin De Bruyne. Still not 100% sure what the situation is going to be with him. He's going to have a late assessment, and hopefully we can get some early team news actually for before the deadline tomorrow. Of course, guys, join me on stream. We will be releasing all of the early team news as it comes in, and hopefully can make some last minute changes to our team. And if De Bruyne isn't playing, well, I probably need to replace him. But if he is playing, if we get the news that De Bruyne is starting at home against West Ham, this is an absolute peach of a fixture for Man City. Obviously, they need to win this game, but also West Ham have been so tragic defensively recently that you do fancy Man City to go there and score 4 or 5 goals. And you imagine that De Bruyne, as the premium playmaker in the team, the set piece taker, he is going to be very much involved in that as well. We spoke about Spurs already, but Son is also in my team, and although the form hasn't quite been there, the fixture is just so good. I just think that Spurs will score many goals in this game, and you have to back Son to get something. And also a player on penalties, that's always very, very useful to have as well. And I think maybe he can maybe just put a little bit of a bit of joy at the end of the season, where he has been struggling a little bit recently. Phil Foden, just like De Bruyne, if you have these Man City attackers starting, this could be huge. It really, really could be huge for Phil Foden, who has been, I mean, well, according to many people, the best player in the Premier League this season. Wonderful season. I think he'll finish it off very strongly as well. Cole Palmer, another player who's had a wonderful season at home against a Bournemouth team with not too much to play for. Palmer is going to be obviously cooking once again. Hopefully we can get some more penalties for Palmer as well. Seems like he used to get a penalty like every single game week, but now, more recently, it's not happening as often. So more penalties for Palmer, please. That's what we like. That's what we want. Going up front, Erling Haaland, yeah, super obvious player for this game week, super obvious captain. You know, we're talking about the best striker in the Premier League, coming back into a little bit of form recently, and he has got this amazing fixture. Yeah, this is a no-brainer. Haaland is just going to be so important for this game week, and I really, really don't think anyone should be betting against him. At least own him. You know, even if you're going differential on the captaincy, he's got to be owned at least. Isak away against Brentford. I'm not actually super keen about this fixture. Brentford have been doing pretty well defensively recently, and I do worry a little bit about Newcastle. Wilson should be back as well, which could maybe kind of change Isak's minutes. It could change Isak's position on the field as well, if he's playing as part of a two-man strike force, or if Isak is playing on the wing, for example, as well. That's definitely something that could happen if Gordon is unavailable for whatever reason. And we've got Nicholas Jackson as the final player in our starting 11 here as things currently stand. He's been in good form as well. He's a new beast. He's a changed man. Since he shaved his head, this guy has been absolutely unreal and always getting in great positions. You know, could have probably got some more points during the double game week, to be fair, but he's scoring goals. Finally, he's adding that to his game. He had all of the positioning kind of stuff wrapped up perfectly. He was doing everything but scoring goals previously, and finally, it's all clicking. His underlying numbers are fabulous. One of the best players for underlying numbers in the Premier League at the moment, really competing with Isak really for that kind of second best forward, I guess, at the moment. So yeah, the faith in Jackson has paid off a lot since we brought him in, and I think that's going to continue, to be honest, going into the final game week of the season. On the bench, Onana, yeah, I think I fancy Petrovic against Bournemouth a little bit more. It's just very difficult to trust Manchester United's defence, even though there is potentially some of their defenders coming back from injury, and Brighton away, you know, it's actually a pretty decent fixture. fixture. So I don't mind Onana, but I just trust Petrovic, and I trust Chelsea more at this moment. Gordon, potentially injured. We're not sure. Going to be a late decision on him as to whether he can be included in the team to face Brentford. But as I say, I don't love this fixture anyway, and I think Gordon is a pretty easy bench, a pretty easy sell as well, actually. Burn, another player I don't really mind. Yeah, he could do okay against Brentford, but Newcastle have let us down defensively a little bit recently, so not too bothered about that. And Branthwaite, away against Arsenal, is going nowhere near my starting 11, as I expect Arsenal to score a couple of goals in that game against an Everton defence, which has, in fairness, been pretty decent this year. So that's what I've got right now. We've got 2 free transfers to use, and I've got a couple of ideas. So my transfer decisions, I think, are pretty much going to hinge on whether De Bruyne starts or not. So we're going to be very much waiting for early team news tomorrow before pulling the trigger on any moves. And I think these are the 2 best options I can come up with based on the 2 possible scenarios, I guess. But I do welcome your feedback on this one as well. So let me tell you what I've got in mind. So first of all, if De Bruyne doesn't start, I have to sell him. He has to go. And I've got this great opportunity to go for Salah, possibly his final game for Liverpool, certainly Jurgen Klopp's final game for Liverpool at home against an out-of-form Wolves team. We did see Salah come into a bit of form as well against Spurs a couple of weeks ago. Against Aston Villa, not so great for Salah, but yeah, certainly, we saw flashes of what he can do. And if this is, a big send-off for Salah, he really could go off here. At this, there's just the Klopp factor, the Salah factor, the home factor. I think there's a lot of things actually favouring Liverpool in this game, and obviously Salah, another penalty taker as well, which is super useful to have, maximise those penalty takers in this, what should be a high-scoring game week. And in order to get De Bruyne to Salah, I need to free up a bit of money, because I don't have anything in my bank right now, and I think the most obvious way to do that is to downgrade Isak to Mateta, which is maybe even an improvement in my team. This Aston Villa at home fixture for Crystal Palace is definitely one I want to target. So although we've been speaking about Salah and how it might be nice to have him in my team for Game Week 38, my real first priority this game week is probably get a Crystal Palace attacker. Now, Munoz is arguably a Crystal Palace attacker, as he is playing so advanced, but it would be nice to have a Mateta, an Elise, and Eze. One of those players I want in my team for Game Week 38. This is the fixture I really want to go in on. Their players for Crystal Palace are cheap, they're differential, and it's an opportunity that I don't think everyone will necessarily go for. I think people will focus a lot more on Arsenal, maybe Man City, possibly Spurs. Well, I think, let's try this Crystal Palace game out. I really do have a lot of faith in Palace going into the final game of the season. I think they've just been in such amazing form. They've looked brilliant recently, and Aston Villa have looked really poor, particularly in the defensive areas. They're conceding a lot of goals at the moment. So Mateta is a really nice player to have as well. So I like that move. Salah and Mateta definitely would improve my team. And if De Bruyne doesn't start, it seems really obvious to go for these transfers. And even if De Bruyne is starting, there is argument to just do this anyway. Because if Man City go 2, 3, maybe 4 goals up against West Ham, of course De Bruyne could have been involved in some of those games, but those goals, those assists. But you do imagine De Bruyne is probably going to get an early substitution in this game ahead of the FA Cup final. I don't really have trust that De Bruyne, even if he does start, is going to play more than 70 minutes, really. And maybe like a 90 minutes from Mateta, 90 minutes from Salah is going to be more beneficial than that. Alternatively, there is an alternative, and this just seems a little bit more boring, but I guess I would go Gordon to Elise, which is, absolutely fine. So that would mean benching Isak and playing Elise instead of Gordon. Elise definitely a player I'd very much like to have. And in terms of the other transfer, honestly, I'm not really sure. I guess my goalkeeper situation could be improved. It would be nice to double up on the Arsenal defence and just get that safe 6 points clean sheet, I suppose. And therefore, Onana to Raya, using the money freed up by downgrading Gordon to Elise. Maybe that's the move instead, and then get that safe, secure points from Arsenal's defence. But it's like a lower upside. Raya is pretty much capped at 6 points, whereas players like Salah, Mateta, these are players who could get 15, 20 points potentially in any given game week. So there seems to be a lot more potential in these first options. But if De Bruyne is starting, home against West Ham, am I really wanting to lose my Man City triple up? I just feel like it's a huge opportunity, and De Bruyne, technically, he could score just as well, if not more points than Salah this week, if he starts. It's going to be a really, really difficult decision to make, though, and I'm not 100% sure which one of these moves I'll end up doing, and we will wait for early team news and maybe go on instincts and vibes a little bit as we approach the deadline, because we've got two very, very, in my opinion, solid options. It's just about picking which one is going to work. So to make things easier for myself, for the sake of this video, I'm going to assume that De Bruyne is not starting against West Ham. I mean, does he really need to start in that game? Well, I guess it is to win the Premier League, but you do imagine that with or without De Bruyne, Man City absolutely run away with this game. You really do. So, therefore, I think, even if De Bruyne is playing, there's definitely a chance I make this move. I think De Bruyne starting or not starting is like 50-50 at this point. And I know you guys are probably going to be saying, if you're selling De Bruyne, you haven't got that Man City triple up anymore. Can you go for Guardiola instead? Definitely, potentially. But I like Pedro Porro, I like Gabriel, I like Munoz. These are not problem areas in my team, in my opinion. So I don't think there's any strong need to go for a Guardiola, even though he could definitely do some damage to me this game week. But it would leave me with this team. And I think this looks very strong, really. It's pretty much as close to like the perfect team as you can get. I think the only other two changes, if you could have a free hit for Game Week 38, probably the only two changes you'd make to this team would be maybe changing the goalkeeper, maybe changing Munoz to Guardiola, go a bit more template. And of course, there's no Arsenal attackers in this team either. But I have to say, Everton are a fairly strong defence, and obviously you don't know if it's going to be Saka involved, Trossard, Havertz. All of these players going to score goals if Arsenal are only going to win 2-0. So you have to make some bets somewhere, and the bet that I would probably be looking to place this week is Arsenal not scoring. That works for my team personally. For you guys, might be slightly different, and an Arsenal player might suit you, or an Arsenal attacker might suit your team a little bit more there. But I have to say, this looks good. I've got my Crystal Palace attacker. I've got Salah for his final game of the season. This is a really, really nice team if I did end up on this. It's just lacking that third City player, which does bother me a little bit. But guys, do let me know, what is your opinion? What would you do with my team? I'd be super interested to know, because we've got 2 free transfers. We can go a little bit crazy for the last game week of the season. Is there any other differentials or something that I haven't thought of? If there's anything I haven't thought of, I'd love to hear what you guys have got for me. But I think this team looks pretty strong. Captain on Erling Haaland. I know it's template, and I know I probably, maybe could even benefit from going differential captaincy for the final game week of the season to try and close that gap to the top 100,000 places. But honestly, I just think Haaland is by far the best captain this week, and I think I would rather take my chances on the idea of other people around my rank maybe being a little bit sillier, a little bit crazier with their captaincy, and capitalise on those who are going differential rather than going differential myself. Because I think going into Game Week 38, we always see a lot of differential captains in Game Week 38 as people look to chase rank and try and make a difference. And by maybe playing more sensibly, those are the people I might be able to take advantage of there. Vice captain, obviously, on Salah as well. I think he is my second best captain option. And if I wasn't going to captain Haaland, Salah would definitely be an option for me. So, yeah, I don't think I'm going to go there, though. I don't think I can do the differential captain this week, though, I'm afraid, guys. So, for the final time this season, let's have a look and see what Fantasy Football Hub has got for us. So I've loaded up my team in their My Team tool prior to transfers, just to see if they've got any suggestions for me, because they do have this very, very useful AI transfer tool, which uses previous data from previous game weeks to try and estimate who's going to score points in the following game weeks, and can make some suggested transfers for you on the back of that. Really useful to just get some ideas, getting a second opinion from a robot. I know it sounds crazy, but it's 2024, guys. It's what we got to do. So let's have a look and see what the suggestions are for me for Game Week 38. Okay, so I can't say I'm totally surprised by this, given the fact that De Bruyne has got his, I guess, flag, his yellow flag, his Dorito of death on him at the moment. He is predicted to score not as many points this week, because you can't be guaranteed of him starting or not at this current junction. But it looks like Havertz is going to be the ideal replacement for him. I think that's definitely something I agree with here. Havertz putting up some really nice numbers recently, been in top form as well, and you do expect Arsenal to get a couple of goals against Everton. It's just a a case of who's going to be the guy to score them. But Havertz is a pretty good bet there, really. And it would also allow, if I went for Havertz rather than Salah, it would give me a little bit of money in the bank to upgrade one of my defenders to GW38. So that is definitely a potential move that I could make. It would mean playing probably Isak, though. So, yeah, is that something I'd like to do? I'm not sure. But I do want to have a look at some other suggested transfers based on if De Bruyne is starting and if I was to keep De Bruyne. Okay, so this is super interesting because if I wasn't to sell De Bruyne, these are the suggested transfers that the AI has come up for me. And it's pretty much the same as my kind of alternative transfer plan that I came up with, but it's got Eze instead of Elise. And I think I am edging towards Elise out of the two players recently, though it has to be said that Eze has been putting up better numbers recently, which is why the computers have decided that Eze is going to be the better pick for this game week. But yeah, okay, that's given me a little bit of confidence there that maybe that move is definitely a viable kind of pair of transfers if De Bruyne is starting. So I guess from now, guys, we just have to hold our breath, wait until the deadline or closer to the deadline and see if De Bruyne is starting or not, because that might have a huge impact on what kind of moves we want to make in Game Week 38. But that is going to be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me this season. I hope to see a few of you guys on the stream tomorrow. But if I don't, that's absolutely fine as well. I loved having you guys around for the season. Make sure you do drop a like. Do subscribe if you're new around here. Check out Fantasy Football Hub if you want to. And fanprints.uk if you want to get some mini league prizes or just something to celebrate your FPL season. Get it on fanprints.uk. Links in the description, guys. But yes, thank you guys once again for watching. And I will see you later, mate.